My name is Bob Egnew, Robert Egnew, born in Springfield, Illinois, 1924, October the 13th.
The next question is, where were you on December 7th, 1941?
December the 7th, 1941, I was home. In fact, my aunt had just died, and we were trying to get a hold of my brother, who was already in the service. And I really can't tell you too much about it. I mean, that particular, I was pretty young. I was 1941. I was 16 years old, 17.
What effect and when did it get you into military service?
When did I go in the military?
Yes.
In 1943, March.
Okay, did you volunteer or were you drafted?
No, I was tried to get in the Marine Corps, and they said I was partially colorblind. So I don't know. I waited around, and I couldn't go. I tried to join the Air Corps, but they said I'd have to wait now that I was going to be drafted. So it was a matter of days, and I got my notice and went into the Air Corps.
Where'd you go first?
Where did I go first?
Mm-hmm.
Out to see. I went to Lowry Field, I believe it was. Yeah, Lowry.
What was Lowry like at that time? Was it just full of people being trained at the gunnery school there? Or
Excuse me?
was, maybe you can get closer.
What was Lowry like? Was it just training for gunnery school at that time?
Yeah, we trained, well, went to Lowry for armament school, and then I went to Las Vegas for gunnery, air-to-air gunnery, and of course we got gunnery out here at Lowry too. And I was at Buckley also. Before that was, well, that was not always Navy, it was Army too. And then of course, I traveled everywhere. I mean, it seemed like all over the United States.
That wasn't unusual, was it? They seemed to move you from training place to training place, didn't they, in World War II?
Yeah, but it seemed like we would take armament and gunnery. It seemed, and we even went to Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah. Different. I don't know. It seemed like we were always going different places for different phases of the training. But I guess the most fun I had was air-to-air gunnery in Las Vegas, or Indian Springs, outside of Las Vegas, and we flew in AT-6s and had a little .30 caliber machine gun mounted in the back cockpit on the side. We'd shoot at a towed target. I think I enjoyed that more than anything.
Where did you finally wind up in the military?
In Garden City, Kansas. After I came back from overseas, I went there and I was put in the post engineers, and I learned to weld in there, run a lathe, and got married in Garden City, Kansas.
You're talking about overseas. When did you go overseas?
I got in March of '44 and put my first mission in, no, it was in May of '44. Put my first mission in May the 22nd of 1944. Flew to Kiel Canal, my first mission in Germany, in Kiel, Germany.
What position were you? What were you doing with the plane?
I was a ball turret gunner down below on the belly, which most of us little guys, that's what we got.
That looks awfully uncomfortable.
Well, yes, It was very uncomfortable, but you know, when you're 18 years old, you can stand a lot. It doesn't bother you too much. I know you fly in there with your chin or knees clear up to your chin for 7, 8 hours, never coming out of that turret. It is a long time.
Is it an insecure feeling because you're just basically looking out of the bottom of the plexiglass, aren't you?
You know, when you first get into that turret, you kind of stand there and you kind of bounce up and down to make sure things will stay there. And you crawl on down and flip the lid shut, and you're kind of in your own little home, your own little airplane, because you're actually using joysticks and moving your turret around just like you're flying. So, but I don't know. I never did bother me getting down in there. Only right at maybe the first is that make sure that that darn thing's solid. And you just flip your door shut, and you know, I flew probably 10 or 12 missions before, and then finally we hit Leipzig, and we picked up about 52 holes and had a couple engines knocked out. And after that trip, I would take my parachute, which was a small chest type parachute, and jam it down the side of me and hook one side. I figured that if I had to, I'd go ahead and flip the door open and fall out backwards and hook up on the way down, because I knew that I wouldn't have time if the plane caught fire or something. I wouldn't have time to get up there and look for my parachute inside the plane, which whenever you're in a dive or anything, everything goes to the ceiling anyway, even you if you don't hold on. So, in fact, we witnessed that a couple of times.
What was it like when you got into battle and you're right down there looking at everything that's happening?
Well, you're seeing planes blowing up, you're seeing planes running into each other, you're seeing planes going down, straight down. You're seeing them in a flat spin. You see debris. I mean, then you look for parachutes and try to report as many parachutes as you can when you get back down on the ground and you're debriefed. You try to remember who or what plane you saw and how many chutes got out and so on and so forth. But a lot of times things got so hectic that you didn't really pay attention. I mean, just only what was right there in front of you. I mean, you might liable to see a wing go by, or, you know,
You must have seen an awful lot more than a lot of the other crew members did, because it was just.
Well, I got to see, I had one of the best views of anybody. I mean, I could see everything down below me and all the way around. It was a good view. Well, I had a glass about that big, my bulletproof glass.
Did you know, this is a stupid question, but you see the movies and you see the gunners, and they knock down 30 planes they shoot down and nothing flat from the ball turret. Did you ever shoot somebody down?
Never did. I threw out a lot of warning shots, and but I'll tell you the truth. Our group under Colonel Preston, he insisted we fly close formation. And I mean, that's putting a wingtip in another guy's waist. And they would hit the groups behind us. They would hit the groups in front of us. They never did bother us. I mean, actually come into our group, the ME-109s or FW-190s. And at that time of the war, which was a little later on in May of '42, things, the German Air Force was pretty well knocked down. I mean, we didn't, maybe C-75 enemy planes is all, you know, not hundreds like the beginning. And it wasn't as bad. I guess it wasn't as bad. I guess when you're shot at, it's bad, but we didn't get shot at that much, unless one of them would get a couple engines knocked out in the straggle, and then they'd pounce on him. But I wouldn't see it. I mean, you know, it'd be happening somewhere else. We'd just read about it or hear about it later at debriefing.
When you talk about your plane being shot up, when you got back, were you ever in danger of, when you had to land, that the plane was damaged enough could you get out of there and get into the fuselage easy?
You know, when we Leipzig, we got 2 engines knocked out, so we had to leave the group, and the pilot decided instead of going around the North Sea to make a straight beeline back to England, which we did. And we never run into any enemy fighters. But when we got back, we landed, one engine cut out just as we was landing, and just as we hit the pavement, the other engine went out. So he made a dead stick landing with no engines. And he just pulled it over on the grass, and we beat the group back by an hour. I mean, and they thought we were lost because there wasn't anybody to report to when we got back. They were all gone or wasn't in the control tower or anything. And so they thought we were lost, but we probably oversacked out, sleep. The time the other group got back, or the rest of the group got back. That's the only time that I ever got a hole in my turret. I think I counted 52 holes in the plane that day. I got one hole that come in and went right across my nose and lodged in this gun over here, my right gun. And I still got that piece of flak at home. It's about that big around with, it's part of a nose fuse of one of their 88s. But that's closest I ever came. My waist gunner, he had a piece of flak go up his sleeve, come out his elbow, and just make a red mark. I had another gunner, the tail gunner, get his heel the heel of his shoe, of his boot blown off, never even touched him. And that's the only, out of 52 holes coming through that plane, that's the only thing that happened that day.
Were you actually aware when the bullet went through?
Yeah, I heard it. Of course, it sounds like hail when they're shooting at you. It's on that skin of that B-17. You can hear it. It sounds kind of like hail. But down there in the turret, I don't hear too much. I'm right down there with the engine noise, and I got my earphones on and goggles and helmet. And I don't hear too much down there.
We haven't talked to many ball turret gunners, and that's something that everybody always wants to know about.
Yeah, well, it's I don't know. To me, it's the safest position on the plane because I only got one hole through mine. I felt very comfortable down there. I mean, I got scared down there. Of course, everybody gets scared, but it was something that it never bothered me. Of course, like I say, when you're 18 and no sense, that nothing bothers you, I guess.
What about the cold? You down there, could you keep yourself warm?
Just certain times. I had a heated suit, and when you're sitting there with your knees clear up to your chin, that suit buckles up here and it just gets so god darn hot that it'll actually burn your skin. And then your back is freezing against that cold metal back there. So, and then the way they're made, if something goes wrong, the whole darn thing goes out. My shoe never did work. I didn't know it at the time, but I had felt shoes on, and then I had this heated suit underneath. Well, that went out, the right foot, and I just almost got frostbite, but it didn't. It got really cold. I had to as soon as we got back over close to the channel, I got out of the turret and walked back and forth in the plane trying to get circulation back in my foot. But that's the closest I ever had of getting frostbite. A lot of the guys got really bad cases of it. Well, you know, it'd get 40, 50, 60 below up there at altitude. But no, I'll have to say that I felt very comfortable in my position, which everybody else, you couldn't have hired anybody else to get down there, you know, but it didn't bother me. I mean, it's just one of those things, I guess.
There must be a mentality about somebody that gets down there. There's something, a different mindset.
You what?
Is it a different mindset?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, there's guys that get claustrophobia, you know, as soon as you even think about getting something like that. But it never did bother me.
How many missions did you float? How many total missions did you float?
32. They gave us credit. When I first went over, it was 25 missions. And then they boosted it to 30, and then to 35. Well, I got right in that period where they give us credit for 35, but I only had to do 32. So.
Today is the 65th anniversary of D-Day. Did you fly on D-Day?
Yes, I did. We took off with a full load of gas and a full load of bombs, and we were to bomb in front of our troops. But we were not to drop any bombs if we couldn't see our target. Well, there was an undercast there that was just thick as could be, and we couldn't see anything. So our group, 13 planes, came on back with all of our bombs and landed with our bomb loads, which is worse than flying in combat, trying to land with with all those. I mean, you had to refuse your bomb or defuse your bombs and everything, you know, before you could come down, which was part of my job also, is to get in there and put the wires back in the bombs where they were taken out.
Having been through that plane, that's not a very big area to go through that bomb bay and try to.
Well, that bomb bay is pretty narrow. And you walk out on that with the doors open, it looks like a long ways down there. Yeah. Yeah, I think, what is it, about 8 inches? Something like that. And you don't have any guardrails like you do on this thing. Laying over here, it's just wide open.
And you're in the air, and is it turbulent?
No, it didn't seem to be, even with the bomb bay doors open, it didn't seem like there's too much turbulence. I mean, the plane is constantly shaken, especially if you get in prop wash. You just almost think it's going to fall apart. I mean, it jars and shakes just so bad. And you got to constantly hold on when you're in prop wash. Otherwise, you'd end up on the ceiling, hitting your head or whatever, you know. But it seemed like practically every mission after we got past the channel, I'd go and then I'd crawl down and get up in the nose just to watch the scenery, countryside, you know.
Yeah, it's one thing we've heard is that you didn't stay in the ball turret when they landed.
Oh,
Did they?
God, no. No.
If there was anything wrong, that thing
No.
was exposed.
The only case that I ever heard of was one that Andy Rooney tells about in his book, is that guy got, I guess, a shell hit close to the turret and it jammed all the gears and everything, and they couldn't get to him. And he couldn't get out. He didn't have a chute because it was up in the plane. They couldn't, no way they'd get a chute to him, and they had to land with him a wheel up landing, belly landing with the kid in the turret, and of course it killed him, you know. But I was always able to get in and out of mine.
The 379th Bomb Group, I'm trying to think, I think we've talked to somebody else from that, because that sounds like a very familiar unit. Where were you based?
In Kimbolton, England. And I was in the 527 Squadron. In fact, I was looking at one of their books over there, and I just happened to open it up, and there's it had different airplanes listed, and there was Vonnegut, and I put a couple missions in that plane. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, did you fly with the same crew, or did you go with different?
Same crew all the way through, 32 missions. We'd lost our navigator. He was pretty sharp, so they put him on the lead crew. Of course, we could fly without a navigator. I mean, later on, as long as we had a couple in the lead crew. And we flew with 9 men instead of 10. So.
What happened when you came home? Did you get out of service?
Yeah, pretty quick. Well, after, I think it was August, can't even remember what date it was. It was in 45 I got out. I had enough points. I mean, you get so many points for the Air Medal and so many points for the Distinguished Flying Cross, and I had all those, so I got out pretty early. And like I say, I was in Garden City, Kansas, and working in post engineers. And had my wife. We got married there. I met in Colorado here in Denver.
Have you been able to fly in this B-17?
I flew in that 909 when it was there. It was quite a, almost seemed like yesterday that I would put my missions in after I got in the plane and got in the air. It just brought back memories just like it was yesterday.
Do you find it's kind of good to come out and see a plane like this here today?
I'll tell you the truth, what happened the other day, I was out in the yard doing something and the darn thing went right over the top of me. And I told my wife, I said, I'm going out there. So then I come out here, and then Mitch asked me if I could help him out a little, you know, talk to people and tell them about the ball turret and everything. I don't know, it seems like when I was watching them out there, and everybody has to get down and try to look up in that little turret to see how, I guess, we flew in it, you know. It's, I don't know, I watched them, I guess they were amazed that people did fly in it. But at the time we were flying, that plane looked like felt like a monster to us. Now it's just a small plane compared to all other planes around.
I was a kid during the war, and it was the Flying Fortress. It was considered so big, it was a flying fortress to the people at home.
Yeah. Yeah, to us it was a monster. I mean, and yet people walking through it they realize, or they seem to think that it's very small, you know, hitting their head and everything.
Well, those compartments are not very big getting in and out of the cockpit or the
No.
bomb bay area.
You did a lot of crawling around on your knees.
Have you gone to reunions since?
I've been to a couple of them, but you know, I go to those reunions and you sit down guys start telling you these old war stories, you know, that they've rehearsed them and bunch of, I mean, they got bigger and bigger every time they told it, you know. And of course, I know a lot of them really went through hell, you know. We all did. So I don't know. I just didn't care about going to reunions too much. It was fun, especially when I went to Vegas. Of course, I did more gambling than I did reunion. And went to San Antonio, and I stayed right there at close to the Alamo, the Hotel Manger or something like that. That was interesting.
Have you seen many of your crewmen since?
I saw them a pilot and navigator, both. In fact, to my knowledge, the bombardier might be alive, but to my knowledge, just the pilot and navigator and myself are the only ones that's still alive. The rest of them are. I kept in contact with our waist gunner because we wrote back and forth for a long time. In fact, I got a copy of his diary. He wrote a book for his kids. So he sent me a copy of the diary he kept during the war and told about our missions and everything, you know. I still have that at home.
I'm glad to see somebody does that.
You what?
I'm glad that he did something like that.
Yeah. In fact, this one newspaper guy that I was telling you about interviewed us. I gave him a copy of the diary because he's kind of a World War II buff.
Did you ever run into another ball turret gunner than me with those?
You know, when I got back to Lowry Field after from overseas, I run into the kid that was just 2 houses down from me, and he was a ball turret gunner. But to this day, and we run around in Lowry while we were both here in Denver, we run around together. I mean, went out on dates and this and that for probably close to a month, and I never asked him, or he never asked me either, what group we were in, what we did in the war. All I know, he was a ball turret gunner and I was a ball turret gunner. We never discussed it. It just, I don't know, I guess it wasn't done, I guess. And today now, I would, of course he's dead now, but he died here a couple of years ago. I would like to have sat down and really talked to him. And I know he would have liked to talk to me about what we did and everything, but we never did. I think this is the most I've ever talked about the darn war since I was over there.
There were an awful lot of people after the war. They just never talked for years.
You what?
A lot of people wouldn't talk for years and years.
No, I don't know, I don't know why. I really don't. I mean, it wasn't because I was scared or, scared to talk about it or bothered me. Didn't bother me to talk about it. It bothers me more now than it would have then. I mean, if I start thinking of certain things, I maybe get choked up.
That never leaves you, does it?
Nope. No, you can sit down and you'll remember incidents that happened that you've never talked about, but you can remember them.
I'm just trying to think, is there anything else that you know of that you think would be important to talk about here? Because we've covered a lot of ground, and we appreciate it. Cause
I could probably tell you stories, but it's I'd have to think about them, everybody has stories to tell, and a lot of them are not really interesting to anybody else, but some of them are tearjerkers, you know.
We don't have to get into anything that you don't want to. That's not
If it isn't
what this is
comfortable.
about, so.
Excuse me?
If it isn't comfortable, why?
Mm-mm.
That's something.
So, that's been a long time ago, and I forgot a lot. I
How
hope.
long were you in total?
27 months. Yeah.
Do you find people now, when they find out you're a World War II veteran, that they know a little bit more of late about World War II? It seemed like it was kind of lost for a while until television started to educate people again.
Yeah. I just,
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, don't worry, just,
That's fine.
I didn't realize that so many people are really interested in what happened until you go over there and stand around that airplane for a while, and if people know that you were flying at that time, then they just pour the questions to you, you know. And I had to get out because the wind blows in these things and I can't hear them very well out there. But I did talk to a few people, and in fact, I talked to a guy today that was real interesting. He was a helicopter pilot, and he was over in Iraq, and he was telling me about some of his experiences, and we, of course, tell him back and forth. But it was very, very interesting what he thought about how things were going over there and all.
is it gratifying to meet somebody who's serving today like that, who appreciates what you guys went through?
Everybody that I talked to thanked me. That, I don't know why, but they seemed to appreciate what we did. And we were only doing our job, I guess.
So, that's great.
That's-
Thank you very much.
You bet.
You know, you just did what so many World War II veterans have told us. You're just doing a job, and it's fantastic what
Yeah.
you did.
Well, and you wouldn't let the rest of your crew down for all the money in the world, you know.